I just started recording. I swear, they're turning into zombies right before my eyes. I can't.
It's a zombie phone.
It's either a zombie phone or a zombie version of Cats the movie. Andrew, why? I caramba. Classical Donald, play the intro, please.
Oh, goodness.
The General Geekery Podcast proudly presents Author August. Today's author of discussion, Sir Terry Pratchett, with special guest Andrew Kelly. Enjoy!
Oh, right, yes. I'm used to us recording two things at a time.
I know, me too.
See, the cheat code is just never listen to your own podcast.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Well, that is
I don't usually, actually.
I mean, I have to listen to it because I always have to
you
edit
do.
stuff out. So.
Yeah, well, that's your problem.
Edit out stuff like.
Screw that. That's staying in. That's opening the episode.
No. Okay,
Sure.
that's fine.
For all the crazy stuff that we've been a part of, Hannah, that's opening the episode.
Okay, yeah. I have brought weirder things to
Fair enough.
like the story of what was his name who ate that other guy.
Oh, yeah, from the...
From the Wendigo episode.
The
Yeah.
whole Wendigo episode was just so weird.
Oh, that was one of my favorite episodes, to be honest.
It was great.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was great.
That's what I call content.
Yeah.
Well, enough dilly-dallying, shilly-shallying. Let's dive right on in. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the General Geekery Podcast. This is the podcast where we love to geek out about all that we love to geek out about with no remorse.
No regrets.
And with all of the enthusiasm in the world.
Yay! Yay!
And welcome back to the third edition of Author August. This month we're taking a look at a bunch of different authors from all throughout history that we love and always love reading, and we like to talk about some of their works, personal facts about them, and just whatever we like to bring up.
Yep. So far. We've done C.S. Lewis, which was Donald's pick.
Yep.
Orson Scott Card, which was my pick. And now we're doing a pick from our guest, Andrew Kelly.
Hello, I am Andrew Kelly, and today we are going to be talking about the illustrious late Sir Terry Pratchett. The Sir is important. He was knighted by the Queen.
Why?
Indeed.
Why did she knight him? What was her reason?
Because he's just that damn good an author, Hannah. That's the
You
reason.
mean I could be knighted if I wrote well enough?
Probably, if you were British.
And also if you had that great of a beard at a wiser age.
He does have a good beard.
I don't think
Or
I
did have
could
a good
ever
beard.
grow a beard that impressive.
Not with that attitude!
But
Gotta believe.
I could certainly try. I've taken care of many an old lady in my day who had quite the stubble.
That's
So,
the spirit.
I could definitely dream.
Yes.
So tell us about Terry Pratchett, Andrew.
I am glad you asked, Terry
I
Pratchett.
didn't ask, I
Okay.
demanded.
Oh,
but
well,
go
okay.
ahead.
Demanding.
Well,
my
now I'm
goodness.
not glad. But no, Terry Pratchett is, or was, he died back in 2015. He was an author of fantasy from, as alluded before, Great Britain. Pulling up the Wikipedia page. Some of this I memorized, some I did not.
Oh, it was the Discworld series, wasn't it?
Discworld, yes. He was born in 1948, and he published his first book in 1971. It was called The Carpet People, a children's book. And for the next 10 years after that, he published 6 books in total. And then in 1983, he published The Color of Magic, which was the first book in the Discworld series, the series for which he is most known. And between that and his death in 2015, he published an average of 2 books every single year.
Jesus!
I can barely publish one book in 14 years. So.
Exactly.
We basically that's the kind of like working book ethic that we mainly joke about with Stephen King.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Come to think of it, he kind of is almost like Stephen King, but British and for fantasy instead of thrillers.
Well, I mean, thriller is a kind of form of fantasy, but then again,
True.
Not
There's fantasy and there's fantasy. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Fantasy.
and Stephen King has done fantasy, capital F. If you've read his Dark Tower series, which is my favorite of Stephen King's works.
Oh my god.
Is that the one that starts with the
The Gunslinger?
Gunslinger?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's my mother's favorite series from me.
It is very good.
Gunslinger.
Yes. But we're also not talking about that, but we could be talking about that.
Another day, another place, another time.
Yes. But yeah, so, he wrote, as I said, had published 2 a year, 2 novels a year, and that is not counting short stories, which he did publish a lot of short stories, and also, I don't think it's counting his collaborative works as well. He's collaborated with Neil Gaiman on Good Omens.
Oh, yes! Neil Gaiman, I love him.
Yes. Is it Gaiman? Or is it Gaiman?
I believe it's Gaiman.
Okay, Neil Gaiman.
Somebody listening will tell us if we got it wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to find...
we
'cause
didn't.
I know
We said both.
We did, yeah. So we definitely didn't get it wrong. I'm trying to find who... Because I know there's another big collaboration he did. It was a sci-fi series. I believe the series is called The Long Earth.
Huh.
Written by... Is Pratchett and something Baxter. I can't remember.
Raven Baxter?
Stephen Baxter.
Oh.
Did you just say Raven Baxter?
Yeah.
I do not understand this reference.
It's a Disney Channel thing.
Ah, okay.
That's so Raven.
Oh, that's so Raven. Okay.
If you spent summers with nothing to do except watch Disney Channel.
See, I didn't even have Disney Channel. I had to play
Sweet
with
niblets.
sticks and stones outside.
Alright,
And I walked uphill both ways to school.
Oh, I used to go and play in this really long drain pipe by not really a drain pipe, more like a culvert or something. It went down a hill. It
Yeah,
was to prevent
no,
flooding.
we did that too.
Yeah, I'd throw stones down there. I'd try
Oh, yeah.
sliding down there.
Absolutely.
This
Frogs.
is-
So
Yep.
many frogs were
Yep.
caught there.
This is what happens when we bring good friends together on this podcast.
We talk about frogs.
So many
Yeah.
frogs.
All of the frogs. Where were we?
We were on
We were on the massive volume of works that Terry Pratchett
Oh, the
has done.
science fiction that he wrote with Stephen Baxter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just brought that up as a thing to bring up. I haven't actually read any of it, so I don't know anything about it. Honestly, I'm kind of out of my depth being the expert on Terry Pratchett here, because most of what I know Terry Pratchett for is, I mean, obviously, I've read Good Omens, as every human being should.
Yeah, that one I read back in college. I mainly read it because I'm a fan of Neil Gaiman. I love the Sandman series.
Yeah.
And his writing always just spoke out to me.
No.
So
yeah.
I didn't realize that he co-wrote Good Omens with Terry Pratchett, and I'm like, oh my god.
Who
Actually,
wrote-
I know something.
Who wrote American Gods?
That was Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, no,
listened
actually,
to an audiobook of that once on a road trip. It was really awkward.
Dude.
No. I just finished reading American Gods, actually.
Do you remember the creature that disguises herself as a prostitute and then absorbs people
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
in her own special way?
Just, like, devours them.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, devours them. Yes.
How 18 plus is this podcast?
I talked about somebody who ate someone else's penis in the Wendigo episode.
I mean,
so
that's just common.
And also we've done an entire episode on the Stanford Prison Experiment.
Yeah,
so
we did
I
that
mean,
too.
we've had many adult conversations.
So-
I think we can get away with it.
So
I don't
anyway,
care.
this woman in American Gods who eats people whole with her
Her other mouth.
her penis flytrap, let's call it.
Yes.
And
I was not prepared for that one.
and
It's an
so
outfit
anyway,
sculptor.
I was driving with my roommate and her boyfriend to a wedding.
Oh.
We were listening to this audiobook, and it was also sort of dramatized. So there was people
Oh,
doing
there's
voices.
sound effects.
People doing the voices of the woman and the guy who was being eaten. And we're
Yes.
sitting there, we're just like driving along, listening to this scene being read aloud, and like her, like this lady doing like this sexy voice while she's absorbing this book. And we're all there, we're just kind of like sitting listening to the thing, and then we're like,
Okay.
turn it off.
Okay. Donald in the booth. Shut it down right now. We're going to start planning a new process on it. General Geekery Podcast presents audiobook of Neil Gaiman's American Gods. Okay, we're going to make this work.
Please
We're going to bring in the entirety of the talent that we have from Voices Found Repertory to help out with this.
Please
This is
no.
going to be great.
Sounds like a good plan.
Make
Only
it
the
so.
best.
Make it so.
As long as I get to voice Odin, I'm good.
Yes.
I can make that. We can make that work. I absolutely think we can make that work.
Let's get back to talking about the author we're actually talking about.
Oh,
That was a major tangent.
Oh yes, major tangent. Hello. Where was I? I'm
sorry,
saying things.
I confused you.
Yeah,
Okay. I guess I was saying that, so I've read, the only works of Terry Pratchett I've read are Good Omens and a vast number of his books from the Discworld series, which is what he is most known for. And the Discworld is basically, it is called the Discworld series, but that is not an exactly apt descriptor. It's a series of series. It is a shared universe with multiple books, and some of those books do follow the same characters from book to book, but other times it follows completely other characters, or some characters from other books show up just as cameos.
Kind of like how you said, like, the Dark Tower series from Stephen King kind of connects to, like, some of his other works, like, as well.
In some ways, yeah.
Because the turtle god from It is, like, tied to the Dark Tower series in Stephen King as well. I assume this is going to, like, a weird kind of connection in that way.
Similar, but where Dark Tower is, like, very clearly like a linear start to finish series, and it just has more like a shared universe with all these other Stephen King's works. Discworld is multiple books intermingled with each other, and even I say it's a series of series, but each book, with the exception of the first two, they get a bit weird, but every single book is a standalone novel in its own right. But just sometimes it follows the same protagonists as a previous book.
Oh,
so
okay. I have a list of books like right in front of me.
Is it kind of like, you know how there's Ender's Game and then the I have to talk about Orson Scott Card, of course. How there's Ender's Game and then there's the sequels to that, and then there's like a parallel series where it's like the same story but it's from another character's perspective, and then it goes off on his sort of what he does after.
Not really, no, because like none of the books overlap in that way.
Okay. Are some of them like out of order, kind of like how like the Chronicles of Narnia book when C.S. Lewis was like releasing them, they were like almost out of chronological order?
Quite possibly. The thing is that Discworld doesn't really have a set chronology. There's some things that you can maybe pick up context clues of some of the larger overall universe things that happen, but none of it's really important. All that's really important to any single Discworld book is the story that book is telling and what each character is going through. So it's more
of an anthology.
In a sense, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So is it kind of like all the Dr. Seuss books, how there's who's sometimes, but
a bit more cohesive than that, but
and how there's a through line of who's all over the place. Why?
Maybe
what is the meaning of the who?
No, not why. Who?
Who?
Doctor Who.
Who?
Yes, no, but probably the best way to put it would be like to talk about, because each of the sub-series is. So there's some of the books follow, for instance, Rincewind, who is the Discworld's most unfortunate and untalented wizard.
I have the list of books.
Okay, now I want to read this.
I have the list of books right in front of me, and the first two books, Color of Magic and Light Fantastic, follows the Rincewind subseries. It has the name of the book, the year they were released, and all of the all of the subseries. Yeah, take a look at it.
Okay, so Rincewind the Wizard, and then there's there's the Witches. I'm less familiar with the Witches. I think I've only read 2 books following the Witches. And then there's, of course, arguably the most beloved character in the Discworld, Death. That is not a joke. Death is an amazing character, and all his books are absolutely fantastic.
Oh wow, that's always fun.
Yeah. Hail the Shinigami of Death.
And then, of course, there's the City Watch.
I'll go in the corner now.
Yeah, you do that.
All right.
I'm just trying to remember what a Shinigami is.
God of Death, Death Note.
Oh yes, okay. I knew that sounded.
As books that follow the City Watch of Ankh-Morpork, including Samuel Vimes and his rise from a lowly officer in the guard to much higher rank than that.
To God himself.
To God himself, surely. Some of these I'm not actually super familiar with. Actually, there's Moist von Lipwig.
There's no way.
Oh, there is a way.
Show me the Carfax.
Right there, under making money. He is a
Oh
con
my
man.
god.
That is a great name.
I should probably be getting into what the thematic elements of these books.
Yes,
because,
please. Tell us about the first book a little bit more in depth.
Okay,
so we'll go and...
So, what the Discworld began as, when Terry Pratchett wrote The Color of Magic and The Light Fantastic, was he was writing parodies of, at the time, contemporary and mid-20th century fantasy novels.
Oh, okay.
So he wrote it just...
I actually have it right here. Pratchett has described the first book as an attempt to do for the classical fantasy universe what Blazing Saddles did for Westerns.
Exactly.
Oh.
So yeah, he's trying to, just sort of poke fun at the tropes and cliches of fantasy novels.
Okay.
And that's sort of the vibe that goes forward with all of the Rincewind books.
Okay.
Is that they look at, all of the cliches of fantasy and turns them on their head, makes fun of them. And it's not just the stories themselves, but also just sort of the industry around fantasy, like the way that fantasy authors sort of pander to their audiences and all of that. Just the whole metagame behind writing fantasy at the time.
Right.
George R. Martin. Sorry, was that me? Was that out loud?
Wherever you are, what are you doing?
I cannot speak to the witches, unfortunately, because as I said, I haven't read a whole lot of their books, so I'm not sure what the pattern is with theirs.
They refuse to speak with you?
Yeah, and they refuse to speak with me. But then there's the Death series, and those tend to be more about human nature. Because part of the whole thing with Death in the Discworld is that he is, as you've probably figured out, an anthropomorphic personification of death.
Right.
And at the beginning, he actually shows up in the very first book, in The Color of Magic, and he's this very imposing, inhuman figure.
I found an illustration of him.
Oh yes, excellent picture there.
Oh,
But-
I mean, classic. Yes.
That's so
Yeah.
great.
But over the course of the series, Death just becomes more and more human as he sort of becomes more involved in his work of, reaping the souls of the dead.
Right.
And so in a lot of his books, he's actually not the central character, but it usually more follows someone else who is in some way related to what's going on.
Oh.
And
It's kinda
Death
like
is
The
more
Book
sort of
Thief
on
in
the
that
periphery.
way?
Like who now?
Like The Book Thief. It's written from the perspective of Death about
I am not
the
familiar with The Book Thief.
Anyway, he follows the Book Thief around and
Okay.
tells her story.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, no, so that's the Death books. And then the Moist von Lipwig books. Those are more social satires, specifically about the absurdities of bureaucracy. There's a good
Yeah, I'm showing an illustration.
Oh, is that
of both of them.
That's Moist von Lipwig.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
So Moist is it feels worse when I say just his first name. Moist is a con man,
How you doing,
and
Moist?
in his premiere book, Making Money, he invents cash.
Oh.
And then we go into the absurdities of the modern banking and currency systems, and how, everything is imaginary, and if everyone just decides one day that money isn't worth anything, then society falls into chaos.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff.
I considered that myself.
Oh yes.
I think to myself sometimes, wait a minute. So we just have this stuff that has no value that we use to represent a value that represents what we have earned, but it really does not amount to anything. Anyway, that was depressing. But
And then cryptocurrency happened.
And then
It got
cryptocur-
worse.
Yep. I was thinking about that, and I was like, cryptocurrency. How is that different from currency now?
God bless the system.
I
It
guess.
just works.
Oh yes. And then the Night Watch. I said the Moist von Lipwig books are social commentaries. They're not. They're more, as I said, about the absurdities of bureaucracy. Whereas I'd say the City Watch series is more the social commentaries, the social satires, and that is about as I said before, mostly about Samuel Vimes, who was an officer in the city of Ankh-Morpork, which is basically what you get if you cross 20th century New York City with, early 20th century New York City with early 20th century London.
So, like, Industrial Revolution London meets with stock market crash New York? Are we talking, like, those kinds of timelines?
Maybe more like 1910s?
Okay, so before Great Depression.
Yeah, pre-Great Depression, I'd say post-Industrial Revolution.
Okay, alright, so, like, right in the middle of, like, those big periods. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So World Fair times.
Yeah, actually that's the perfect way to put it.
The H.H. Holmes times.
Yes.
So,
But, yeah, and so it follows the officers of the city guard of Ankh-Morpork as they solve various crimes in the city, often with themes on various different social questions and issues, such as racial relations, gun ownership, etc.
Did you say that the name of the town was Vaunt-More-Pork?
Ankh-Morpork.
Ankh-Morpork. I thought it was
Yes.
Vaunt-More-Pork. Do you really? Oh, this is...
The names in this series are kind of insane.
Yep.
Oh, and also a lot of the books following the folks of Ankh-Morpork also follow the Wizards of Unseen University, which is the foremost, if you ask them at least, the foremost center of magical knowledge in all of the Discworld.
I love it. Unseen University.
That's so amazing.
Oh, man.
This is the thing that, like, so I'm reading through all this, and I'm looking at there is 41 novels.
In this series, Discworld?
41 novels. The last one, I was just reading through all of them just because I had to do it. The final one, The Shepherd's Crown, was... he finished the book, like, before his death, and it was posthumously released.
Wow, man, 41 books? It's like Animorphs.
So, yeah, some of them were written, like Andrew said, like, almost 2 a year.
Dude.
Like, that is some, like, crazy dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be, like, people see that number and they're daunted, and it's like, just like that whole conversation we had at the beginning here when you're trying to figure out, okay, so what is this series? And that's sort of the thing, is that you can't look at it as a series. You have to look at it as a bunch of good books. Mm-hmm. Because it does, like, people think about, read order, but there is not really a read order. There can be.
Mm-hmm. From my understanding of, like, what you've been describing, and, like, from what I saw, it kind of reminds me of, like, how George R.R. Martin has, like, structured, like, the Tale of Fire and Ice, like, series, like the Game of Thrones books. Mm-hmm. Like, how, like, certain sections of, like, books will veer off to, like, follow, like, different characters. Like, it's all set in the same, like, universe, but, different focus is given to, like, different, like, portions of it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always intertwine.
Yeah, and even then, it still follows a linear sequence of events within each of those threads. Whereas that's not necessarily the case with Discworld. So you have, so some of the books clearly take place after another book, like Going Postal, which is the second Moist von Lipwig book, clearly takes place after Making Money, just because of some of the, characters and stuff that appear in it.
I love the name of these books.
Oh,
I
yes.
swear, dude.
But you can absolutely read Going Postal before reading Making Money and still have a very good experience reading and enjoying a story about how the postal system is really suspicious if you think about it for more than half a second.
Is it really sad that I want our good friend Thomas Sabal to, like, narrate these books?
To read these books.
Oh no, that would be amazing, actually.
Yep.
Thomas, where are you? We need you to read these to us.
So you don't necessarily, you can read Going Postal, and you don't necessarily have to have read Making Money to truly understand Moist.
No, you can understand Moist through Going Postal.
You can understand Moist through Going Postal. Oh my gosh, it always just gets so ridiculous when
that quote's going on the socials. That
on the
quote
socials.
is going. I am isolating that audio and putting it on the socials.
Yes, we made it.
I swear.
It's always, oh my gosh. just the banter gets way more ridiculous when Andrew shows up.
Fair enough.
I mean, we spent the first half of this recording not talking about Terry Pratchett, so you know.
Yeah. We talked about brains.
We talked about brains. We talked
brains
about penis fly traps.
That too.
Caramba.
Let it not be forgotten that we talked about that.
So yeah, I'm looking at the Discworld series. Like, actually, the BBC actually ranked the Discworld series among like the 100 like most influential novels.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's really like it's not so popular here in the States. I think it's probably a lot more popular over in Britain, where Pratchett was working. But it was definitely highly influential in fantasy. The fantasy sphere. Like, we alluded to this before, but Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman were very close friends, and they collaborated a lot. Even, like, obviously they co-wrote Good Omens, but if you read the acknowledgments, I always read the acknowledgments in the back of novels. If you read the acknowledgments, a lot of Neil Gaiman novels will have, and thank you to Terry Pratchett for helping me with this and this and that. And a lot of Terry Pratchett's books will be like, and thank you to Neil Gaiman for helping me with this and this and that.
God, don't you
That's
just
just a lot
love
of
when
fun.
authors like collab like that?
Yeah.
It's kind of like how C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were like in the Inklings, and like they always like bounce ideas off each other and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, and come to think of it, when you put it that way, Gaiman and Pratchett are almost like a modern day Tolkien and Lewis in some ways.
I can
feel
definitely
like.
see the similarities.
Like they both write sort of similar things, and that Gaiman writes like, I put both of Pratchett's writings and Gaiman's writings in the category of modern fairy tales.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, but they come at it through slightly different angles, whereas Pratchett goes more the angle of fairy tales as fables, fairy tales as, following these characters and these plots, but also, learning things about the real world through them and exploring themes. Whereas Gaiman's are a bit more, how to put it?
His are a lot more dark, like
His
dark
are
fantasy.
darker. His are a lot more
Horror-
raw.
Dark
Yeah.
fantasy, borderline on like horror aesthetic, like the Sandman series and American Gods in particular.
Yeah.
Are like the two prime examples of like Gaiman's works.
Yeah.
But both Gaiman's writings and Pratchett's writings, like you said, are in like the same kind of cohesive hemisphere of fantasy. They've just taken it in like very different directions.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun looking at Good Omens, because Good Omens was the very first Neil Gaiman book that I had read. It was actually, I read it because of Terry Pratchett, and it got me into looking more into Neil Gaiman. But now that I've read more of Neil Gaiman's stuff, it's interesting looking back at Good Omens and thinking, okay, so what parts of this book are Gaiman and what parts of it are Pratchett? And a lot of it, it's hard to tell, but I think the conclusion I came to is that Good Omens is a Neil Gaiman story told with Terry Pratchett characters.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I can see that. I haven't read the book. I just watched the mini-series.
Yeah, no.
In a single sitting, like I do.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. David Tennant's character.
David Tennant.
My boy!
Crowley.
Crowley is 100% a Terry Pratchett style character.
Oh, I believe it.
He's very over the top, but he's also very like devil may care, and but he's devil may care, but he does care.
And then what was the angel's name? It
Aziraphale.
Right. Okay, I was gonna say Asphodel, but that's
Dead Asphodel.
that Asphodel though.
It is.
Yeah, and Aziraphale. Yes, I enjoyed that story.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple of things I've read, and I do not know if they're Terry Pratchett or Neil Gaiman. I think they're Neil Gaiman.
I've got both of them up
All right.
for a fact check.
Neverwhere is Neil Gaiman.
Neverwhere is Neil Gaiman. Recently read that as well, actually.
What about, there's a book, I listened to an audiobook of it. It's called Dodger. It's like a story about The Artful Dodger from Oliver.
I don't think that's a Pratchett, so if it's one of them, it's probably a Gaiman.
Okay. But yeah, it was like this street urchin con artist kid, and he met Charles Dickens, and there was this whole like thing in the like a whole big like criminal plot that he uncovered, but no one would believe him because he was a
That was Terry Pratchett.
Oh,
was
it was.
Dodger
Okay.
was? Okay, so
Yep.
I've read that. Yeah.
Okay. Just more evidence I need to read more non-Discworld Pratchett stuff.
Yeah. But
Yep, that was released in September 2012.
Oh.
you know what? I actually haven't read Neverwhere. I just listened to a dramatization of it.
Dude, I need to lend you my copy because Neverwhere is amazing.
Yes, but the book, the dramatization, it had James McAvoy.
Oh, okay.
What is his name? Anthony Head. was in
Okay.
it.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who that is?
Is that Giles?
I don't know who that is.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I think so.
I think so.
I know him because he played Uther Pendragon in Merlin. But
Okay, yeah, that's Anthony Head. That's Giles.
Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch was in it. He did the voice for the angel that they find down in this.
God, I love it when Cumberbatch does voice work.
I know it's good.
He really knows how to play it.
Islington, that was the angel's name.
Yes.
That's such a cool name for an angel.
I know.
Islington.
Anyway, that's
For
another
British angels, specifically.
That's another Neil Gaiman tangent we went on just there.
Yeah. No, I was actually joking before we hit record that, maybe this will just end up being a Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman combination episode.
Probably will.
Well, they're so inexorably linked together. Like we just found out. It's almost kind of hard to differentiate them. Good Omens, especially, is the manifestation of a combined vision.
Where the Venn diagram intersects.
Yeah, and with
Pretty much,
and with the Amazon series that came out last year, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It was it's obviously gotten a lot more popular. I read it before it was cool.
As you do. That was a maniacal laugh.
All right, let's tone it down.
Okay.
A few minutes later.
Donald's looking at the audio levels and sweating.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna blow my ears out later in editing, but that's okay. We'll make it work.
A few straight jackets later.
Okay, that's a good one. But yeah, it's almost like you just describing Discworld. I gotta read this now.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It is.
Yep.
It is a lot of fun. I actually brought a couple of them with me. I'd originally wanted to do some,
Dramatic readings or something like that?
Let's read some selections, but here's the thing. I'm bad at preparing and did not prepare any selections.
No, that's fine.
Did you bring any of the Moist books?
I do not actually own any of them. Wait, no, do I? No, I brought The Truth. That's not making sense.
Okay.
I do not think I own any of the Moist books, actually.
Oh.
So, yeah, So, story about how I came across Terry Pratchett is when I was in my high school years.
Yes.
And at the time, it's something that I do now. Again, I've been doing it, but I used to do it more. Was I'd go to the library, and I'd go to the fantasy section.
Good
and
on
I'd
you.
be like, where's a book by an author that I have not read yet? And, I mean, most of those books I have long forgotten. But 3 authors I discovered through that process are 3 of my favorite fantasy authors. Robert Jordan, Lawrence Watt Evans, and of course Terry Pratchett. What is that with Lawrence Watt Evans? Do you know Lawrence Watt Evans?
Vaguely.
You are the first person I've ever met who knows anything about Lawrence Watt Evans.
I need to look at the bibliography again. But
when Donald asked me who I wanted to talk about for this episode, this was almost a Lawrence Watt Evans episode, but I didn't think we'd have enough to talk about. But no, so I came across Terry Pratchett's Discworld in the library, and so that's how I started reading. And so I've read, I think, most of the Discworld books by this point, but I own only a few. And what is... Okay, so He's looking at the truth.
Looking at the truth.
That one is not a Moist von Lipwig book, but it is sort of similar in tone and style in that this one is about the foibles of media. In this book, someone basically creates the city of Ankh-Morpork's first newspaper, and very swiftly comes across the ethical questions that come with news reporting.
Oh, like how much do you just ham up how serious something can be in order for continued viewership and everything like that.
Stuff
right?
like that, yeah, and also just as a news reporter, how much is your duty to just report, and how much is your duty to be involved in the situations you're reporting on?
How much do you dramatize it?
Yeah, and the fluff. If the fluff pieces are what sell the paper, then how much priority do you put on the fluff pieces?
That's honestly a thing that's often brought up, not just in fantasy, but just honestly every day, how much media will dramatize events in order to play a bigger picture.
Yeah,
a bigger role. It's it's like media control.
Yeah.
So that is actually I enjoy that kind of satire.
Oh yeah, no, it's I think that those are probably some of my favorite of the Discworld stuff, other than the death stuff. Another one I brought was Thud, which is one of the City Watch books. So in Thud, the City Watch is opening its doors to more species to join the Watch. So now there's a provisional dwarf, troll, and werewolf member of the Watch. And so it goes into racial relations a little bit in this book. It's more fun than it sounds.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Especially since, it follows, like most of these books, it follows Samuel Vimes. And he's a very old-fashioned type, so it's really interesting to read from his perspective, just a sort of old-fashioned, let's put it this way, if this guy had a Twitter, he would probably be canceled for being borderline racist.
Okay.
But, that's, I think, one of the brilliant things about Pratchett's take on satire is that ultimately his books, they cover some pretty heavy subjects, but in the end they're very optimistic. He looks at how the dark side of human nature, but he also says, in the end, people are trying their best, and if you give them the chance to do better, they generally will.
Which I think is really important to know for satire, because so often we live in an age where pessimism is the primary lingering bug that goes under us, that just reigns over all. We see all these good things happening, but everywhere in the back of our minds it's but this thing, that optimism is a big thing to have. And in satire novels what you just described with everything in Discworld, it brings a levity to it.
Yeah, exactly. And then this I brought my favorite Discworld book, actually. Well, maybe not my favorite, but it's one that I've read the most because I read it every year around Christmas time. It is called The Hogfather. It is one of the death books. The Hogfather... That was an odd sentence, I realize.
Yes.
The Hogfather is the Discworld's version of Father Christmas, of Santa Claus.
Oh, okay.
That would explain why jolly old Saint Nick's face is right on the cover.
Yeah, Saint Nick, but with tusks,
What?
Yep.
Oh god, he does have tusks. I didn't even notice that at first.
Oh, hey, okay.
And The Hogfather is a book about when an assassin is hired to murder Santa Claus.
Okay.
And it is, one, very good book. Two, this is one of the great examples of how Terry Pratchett's plots are so out there, but also so when you read them, they start to really make a lot of sense. Because you see, in order to murder Father Christmas, this assassin first targets tooth fairies.
Okay.
And just targeting tooth fairies, getting a lot of teeth, And the payoff to that, like figuring out what does he want all these teeth for, and how does that have anything to do with killing Santa Claus? Mm-hmm. And then you get to when it's explained, and you're just like, oh, okay, that actually makes perfect sense. You look a little skeptical about that.
I'm not skeptical. I'm just trying to figure out how that would work.
I mean,
for some reason in my mind, like I'm picturing this like the animated movie Rise of the Guardians with like the Russian Santa,
Oh man,
played by Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Like with all this stuff happening, it's like, okay, we're going through all these imaginary figureheads. We're gonna go right to the top.
yeah.
I'm just imagining that as a mix of that with The Godfather for some reason in my mind. I know I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining that's what it's like in my mind, and that's the version that I'm going to go with, because I think that's just too funny of an idea.
Actually, I think I can probably find... Yeah, because Death's words are written in all caps, so that should be easy to find. I want to find Death's final monologue in this book, because that's one thing that I can read here. Okay, here we are. So, context for this selection here. So, Death and his granddaughter Susan, long story.
Fair enough.
his granddaughter Susan.
His granddaughter Susan.
Who is he, the first Doctor?
No. As I said, long story.
Okay, sure.
But they just got finished. Basically, what it boils down to is that the whole plot to kill Santa Claus had to do with stopping the sun from rising.
Right.
Again, it makes part of Terry Pratchett's plots. It makes a whole lot of sense when you get there. And you know, the whole thing between Death and Susan, their whole dynamic is that Death is obviously this, you know, he's a spiritual figure. He's very what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Ethereal?
Ethereal is a good word. Like he's sort of above and beyond everything. Whereas
Omnipotent?
Susan is very practical-minded and very skeptical and very just like, okay, these are the things in front of me that I have to do. Let's get these done. And this is sort of the little dialogue that they have after having foiled this plot to kill Father Christmas. All right. So first Susan says, "Thank you. Now tell me, what would have happened if you hadn't saved him?" That's a terrible death voice, but we're going with it. "Yes, the sun would have risen just the same, yes?" "No." "Oh, come on, you can't just expect me to believe that. It's an astronomical fact." "The sun would not have risen." She turned on him. "It's been a long night, grandfather. I'm tired and I need a bath. I don't need silliness." "The sun would not have risen." "Really? Then what would have happened, pray?" "A mere ball of flaming gas would have illuminated the world." They walked in silence for a moment. "Ah," said Susan dully. "Trickery with words. I would have thought you'd have been more literal-minded than that." "I am nothing if not literal-minded. Trickery with words is where humans live." "All right," said Susan. "I'm not stupid. You're saying humans need fantasies to make life bearable." "Really? As if it was some kind of pink pill?" "No. Humans need fantasy to be human. To be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. Tooth fairies, hogfathers, little... Yes, as practice. You have to start out learning to believe the little lies, so we can believe the big lies. Yes, justice, mercy, duty, that sort of thing. They're not the same at all. You think so? Then take the universe and grind it down to the finest powder and sieve it through the finest sieve, and then show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. And yet," Death waved a hand, "and yet you act as if there is some ideal order in the world, as if there is some rightness in the universe by which it may be judged." "Yes, but people have got to believe that, or what's the point?" "My thought, exactly."
I'm still confused, but
Damn!
No, just like, yeah, just
that
about belief.
is a hell of a speech.
No, it is very interesting to read a lot of Terry Pratchett's stuff, because knowing that he was an atheist, and reading it as a non-atheist, is very interesting to read a lot of his stuff about spirituality and belief, because he was like, okay, so I don't believe in God, but I believe in something. And I think that belief is a very important part of the human experience.
Yeah, that basically, like, what I got from, like, that entire, like, final thing, it's like, it's a question of the existential. Basically. It's like, everyone in that moment has, like, that moment of weakness. That existential question is, like, what really matters, like, with the lies upon lies, for the small to understand the big, and how it just basically connects, like, the world that which we know.
Yeah.
It's a very existential thing to put in, but then again, satire kind of revolves around playing with the existential mindset.
Yeah.
At times. So, damn.
Yeah. No, he does. He gets, as I said, he gets deep at times. But not all of it is like that. A lot of it, as I said, it's very fun. It's very hilarious. It's that dry British satirical humor
Which I love.
Yes.
I know we all adore it, but God, it's so good.
Oh, yes.
I love that kind of humor with a passion.
Yeah, and if anyone listening is interested, I guess my recommendations for where to start in the Discworld, if you look online, a lot of people will say, basically if you ask about where to start, most people will just say, don't start with The Color of Magic and The Light Fantastic, which are the first two books. I would tend to agree there. There are probably his weaker books. And as I said, part of the beauty of the Discworld is that you can start anywhere. If you want to read something more just sort of poking fun at the fantasy genre, my recommendation would be Interesting Times, which is a book about how Rincewind gets sent to basically the Discworld's version of fantasy China.
What?
Oh, yes.
What is it called? The Interesting World?
Interesting Times.
Oh, Interesting Times.
Hannah's already writing it down. She's immediately sold on this series. I can tell in her eyes.
Yeah, if you want satire on like modern bureaucracy, still got to say making money, and not just because Moist von Lipwig is fun to say.
We've got to have money.
If you want,
I just wanted to say that the entire time.
If you want to read one about the Unseen University, then I would recommend Unseen Academicals, which is about how the wizards of the Unseen University join a soccer game, and also there is a Romeo and Juliet thing going on in the background as well.
Okay.
That's so fun.
Oh, yes. And then if you want to read something from the City Watch series, I would recommend Men at Arms, which is about solving a mystery involving a gun. And those, I think, are the... Oh, no, Death. So, for the Death series, what I would recommend starting with is... trying to remember what it was called. Oh, my gosh.
Of the Death series?
Yeah, let me...
I'll read off a list of like the works involving him.
The Fifth Elephant?
Reaper Man, that's what it's called.
There's one called Reaper Man.
Reaper Man.
There's also...
Reap
there's
us a soul, you're the
That's-
Reaper Man.
And Reaper Man is a book about how Death gets sacked and basically lives life for a time as a human. And it is...
I'm in.
It is, like... it is by far the most heartbreaking of the Discworld books.
I'm in. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is really phenomenal. Also in the background, like, you know, a lot of these books, like, they have these sort of things going on, but there's always some weird supernatural phenomena going on in the background that has to be solved. So, like, in the Reaper Man, the supernatural phenomena is, things just stop dying. How do we deal with that? And actually, it's another good Unseen University book as well, is Reaper Man. Sort of both Death and the Wizards of the University. I haven't talked enough about the Wizards of Unseen University. They are led by Arch-Chancellor Ridcully, who is basically, think of like your stereotypical, like, middle-aged outdoorsman. He likes to go out fishing. If he lived in America, he'd own a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And he's just, absolutely nothing like you imagine a wizard to be. And it's always a lot of fun with him and with the other wizards who are, absolutely incompetent at what they do and like nothing more than to eat 14 square meals a day.
Wow.
I think I pulled that number out of my butt, but I don't think it's too far off.
I'm more concerned about the squareness of the meals than the number of them. But
There's probably a book where the meals are literal squares. I would not be surprised.
Literally, from like just the description of like what you say, like all goes on in the background, just reminds me of I hate to bring it on this, but this just reminds me of mine. This musical like opera series that I listened to called the New Albion trilogy by Paul Shapiro. Like there's a story, but there's also in the lyrics they explain many different things about going on in the background, including a mafia boss with one eye, 2 young women thieves with a tiny mouse named Sam, and like all this weird, wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
And this is like bringing those memories like to surface.
No, yeah, I didn't even talk about like a lot of the recurring characters in the city of Ankh-Morpork that show up in multiples among these books. Like, there's of course Cut Me Own Throat Dibbins, called such because he is a would-be entrepreneur, which is to say he's a street vendor, and whatever he's selling, whatever it is, be it dubious sausages or even more dubious burritos, he'll tell you his price and be like, oh, and that's cutting my own throat, that is, with that price, the implication of that is he's always underselling, but probably more likely whatever you buy from him, you'd probably be better served to take it from him and then have him pay you for the privilege of having removed that from his hand.
Damn.
That was incredibly mean, but that's sort of the idea behind Cut Me Own Throat Dibbler.
Fair enough.
Is Sergeant Colon a recurring character?
Sergeant Colon is a recurring character. He is a very short, presumably human member of the City Watch.
Okay.
No one's quite sure what he is. They assume that he's either a human, a dwarf, or some kind of bogeyman. No one knows for sure. But yes, he is a recurring character. Oddly enough, I'm not sure if he actually appears in any of the City Watch books, but he appears as just wandering the streets of Ankh-Morpork in other novels. Trying to think any other... Ponder Stibbins, a wizard at the university. He is part of the younger generation of wizards. And his great project is Hex, which is a magical computer. And I wish I could do Hex justice, because Hex is absolutely ludicrous. There's just the running joke with Hex is that no one knows exactly how Hex works. They're just like, okay, Hex needs this apparently in order to work. Let's do that. Apparently one of the first things that Hex requested when they turned him on was a mouse. And you figure, oh, a computer mouse. No, they got an actual mouse. And that satisfied Hex.
What? What about Coffin Henry?
Coffin Henry, I don't think he's a recurring character.
That sounds like an awesome name, though, I must
What
say.
about Arnold Sideways?
No, those are recurring characters. Coffin Henry, Arnold Sideways, the Duckman.
The Duckman!
It's just like this group of homeless people in Ankh-Morpork.
Oh, it kind of, for some reason, it makes me think of the Mechanicals from Midsummer.
They kind of are like the Mechanicals.
Just like a bunch of weird people who hang out together.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're weird people who hang out together. There's something like Old Arnold, and also there's Old Arnold's stench. Like, his smell is so strong that they count as a separate person.
What in the world?
His smell as a separate person?
Yes.
That's so great.
Oh my gosh.
And the Duckman, of course, he has a duck on his head. He just always has a duck on his head.
Here's the Duckman.
But if you were ever to acknowledge the duck, he would become confused. He'd be like, what duck? There is no duck.
Well, I'm quite a brilliant surgeon. I could help you with that duck. What duck?
Quack. and then the duck just goes quack.
Quack. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Foul Ron. That was the name of the guy who had his own stench.
Foul Ron.
Foul Ron and Foul Ron stench.
That's hilarious. It's a bunch of madness, and I love it.
Oh yes.
Man.
Like this literally seems like the kind of like series that would just draw me in and like never let me go.
Oh yeah.
It seems like such boundless imagination. Like, I'm familiar with how Pratchett works because I've read Good Omens, but this sounds so much more interesting and fun.
Oh yeah, like Good Omens, as I said, it's almost like a Gaiman plot with Pratchett characters, so there's obviously a lot of imagination going on in Good Omens. It's, a crazy world that they build up there, but there's rules to it. Like, it's got it's a very grounded world in Good Omens, whereas the Discworld, there are no rules. Like, if you look at any of his books, a lot of fantasy novels, if you read fantasy, you'll know. You open first couple of pages and you'll see this big map. And I love those maps in fantasy novels. I like just looking at them, seeing where everything is, and like being like, oh, look, this is where this is. Well, that's a cool name for a place there. Terry Pratchett was always adamant to never include a map of the Discworld in any of his books, and never to create a map of the Discworld, because he thought that making a map would be too limiting.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because while I was looking up the stuff on Discworld, like with Wikipedia, apparently the concept of it is the Discworld is basically a flat Earth concept.
I never actually discussed what the Discworld actually is. Okay, so
Last thing.
the Discworld is a world which is a disc, which is carried on the back of 4 elephants, and those 4 elephants are standing on the shell of a giant turtle called Atuin, and Atuin flies through space, starting who knows where, going who knows where, and is obviously, there is a miniature sun orbiting Atuin, and I'm not sure if it's a sun, though. I mean, thinking too much about the world building of Discworld
Flaming
here.
ball of gas.
But no, it's more about the fact that often in the books you'll see references to the fact that light is slower in the Discworld than is anywhere else. So I don't know. That's probably not an intentional world building thing at all. But
It's like as if somebody did a Dragon Ball Z fusion dance between the concept of Atlas from Greek myth and the freaking turtle from the Stephen King series.
I was
pretty
going to
much,
say,
yeah.
does it have something to do with the turtle from Stephen King? And what then is the 5th elephant?
That I have not actually read the 5th elephant, but if I understand correctly, that is actually a reference to, like, they think that they have found a 5th elephant who is also holding up the Discworld.
No, the fifth elephant is basically a Discworld movie starring Discworld Gary Oldman and Discworld Bruce Willis.
Right, yes.
Yes. Discworld Gary Oldman is not quite as good looking as Earth Gary Oldman, but what can you do?
No.
Oh, what was that guy's name? Oh.
From what?
Zorp.
Oh yes.
Zorp.
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 Oh my goodness. 5th elephant.
Well, I think. Do anybody have any last words about this
No.
topic?
No.
Andrew Kelly, thank you so much for bringing this in. This was a heck of a discussion.
Oh man.
You have sold me on this series, good sir.
Excellent. Then I have done my part.
You have done well.
I always have my doubts when I bring in, like, a book or something that, like, you've never read or that listeners have probably never read, and I think, no one's going to be interested in this, but apparently they are, because I am right now. So.
Yeah, heck yeah, absolutely. So, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode of Author August, all about Sir Terry Pratchett. Thank you again, Andrew, for coming in and telling us all about it.
Yep.
Where can I find you? You got anything going on?
Yeah, so, as you may know if you have listened to any of the other episodes I've appeared in, I have a podcast called Tales from the Heliosphere. It is unfortunately on an indefinite hiatus at the moment. However, it lives on in blog form at talesfromtheheliosphere.com. That should be up by the time this episode is up. I actually intend to get that published tonight as of recording. And you can also check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/GentleCrit. That is GentleKrit. where you can find me streaming some video games. Sometimes it's Half-Life 2, sometimes it's Genshin Impact. There's going to be other things going on as well.
What you're doing tomorrow.
Tomorrow, this will have already happened by the time this is up probably, but tomorrow I will be reviewing fast food French fries from various fast food chains I can find French fries at.
I swear to God, if Five Guys is not at the top of the chain, we're gonna start some shit.
Probably not going to do Five Guys. It's going to be all drive-through fries.
Oh, okay.
Damn it.
A stupid amount of people are going to come and watch that. I
hope
can
so,
tell
because I
already.
definitely intend to explore other things beyond fries in the future as well.
Right.
I better find this in an archive somewhere if I'm not there live to watch
Yeah.
it.
I will make sure to publish the VOD.
Please, thank you,
Awesome.
God.
I may have I'll make a YouTube channel at some point. Probably won't be up by the time this is up, so don't even worry about it, but
We'll include all the links in the description for the episode.
yeah.
Just send us your links.
Send
Send Donald your links.
Yeah, send me the links. I'm the one that edits everything.
Don't send
so.
them to me.
I will send all of my links to Hannah.
I just come here. I just come here and sit in my chair. I don't really. do
She
anything.
comes here, she sits in her chair, she drinks the coffee that I prepare.
And then I leave.
Yeah, and because I'm bad at scheduling things, I don't get coffee today. Jip.
Nope.
Another day. There will be
Another
another
day.
day.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Andrew. And if you guys like what you guys have been listening to, make sure to follow us wherever podcasts can be found. We're on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and on my personal YouTube channel at Anime Rev Productions, where all of the episodes are archived. That is youtube.com/Anime Rev Productions. You can also check us out on social media at General Geekery on Instagram and at Gen Geek Podcast on Twitter and Facebook. And if you guys want to donate some coin to the podcast and have us continue what we continue doing, you can donate to us on Patreon at patreon.com/General Geekery. The link for that will be in the description of this episode. And you can also join us on our Discord server, where you guys can chat with us about different episodes, topics, or if you just want to post some memes, whichever.
Yep.
We're all there for that.
Posting memes.
The link,
Memes.
the memes. The link for that will be in the description of this episode
We have
as
so
well.
many links in the description now. I don't know how people keep track of them.
Links for days.
Links. Well, they say that linking out to places is how you get more traffic.
Yeah, that's true.
What's
It's-
your
it-
favorite link? Mine is Wind Waker link.
It's an SEO thing.
Good for you. Good for you.
I am terrible at playing the Wind Waker. Not the game, just the instrument, the Wind Waker. Like the thing, the Wind Waker. I cannot do it.
That is definitely a noob trap, I feel like. I had
Yeah.
difficulty
Yeah,
my first
indeed.
time.
I could not, and like the more you explained it to me, the more confused I was.
For those who are not understanding what we're talking about, that is our Inepticon series where we have Hannah, who does not play video
I'm
games.
a video game inept.
Play video games. So go check us out every other Thursday on twitch.tv/RyuZakiMK7, which is my YouTube channel, where we stream Inepticon, and join on in the fun. I've got a couple of great ideas coming up, so
Always streamed when I'm at work, so I can't huckle them in the chat.
that's true. That isn't true. We'll figure it out. There shall be days.
Yes.
Hannah, where can they find you, my friend?
Well, you can find me rolling dice with my party every Monday at 7:30 Central on twitch.tv/LoadedDiceAdventures. It's an ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, and I play Petra, the Dragonborn Ranger Rogue, a zombie killer. And that's pretty much all there is to her right now. You can also follow me on Instagram if you wish to, at Pythian Legume. And if you want to know what that means, listen to our Ender's Game episode.
Indeed.
What the hell is Pythian Legume?
I mean,
Nobody-
don't listen to the end. They don't tell you what it means. That's clickbait. They're just like, oh, it's from this book, but they don't explain it. They're like, you have to read the book to understand it. I'm like, oh.
No, I
shit.
do read the book.
Indeed.
Well,
I read the relevant section of the book for you to understand.
oh, I must have not paid attention to that.
No,
one.
you no. I guess not. I guess you just zoned me out eventually.
I was walking home from work that day. Okay.
Okay.
And if you guys want to check me out on all my stuff, you can check me out on twitch.tv, like I said, at RyuZakiMK7. I play a majority of different games. A lot of them are RPG-based, but I love interactive with my chat, doing a bunch of different on-the-spot voice acting for some of the older RPGs, and it's always a lot of fun. So come on by and check that out. I stream most nights, so come on by, bug me if you want to bully me. I know these two do in the chat all the time.
Yo.
Yes.
And
It's so easy.
I know. I need to stop.
I don't know why. There's some people it's just so easy to bully them in the chat.
This is what I get. This is what I get. And you guys can also check me out on Twitter and Instagram at ReeveZackMK7 as well. Thank you guys so much again for listening to episode 89
Holy
of the General Geekery
shnikey.
Podcast. We are reaching closer and closer to that 100 mark every single
Plus
day.
20.
What should we do?
Plus 20. We'll figure it out one of these days. So make sure to join us next time, guys, for our final installment of Author August 2021. For Hannah Kubiak, for our special guest Andrew Kelly, I'm Donald Kaczynski, and until next time, guys, keep on reading. Enjoy the satire. Please read up on the Discworld series because it's so great. And always remember to keep your geek on.
Always.
Andrew, would you like to say the time-honored words?
Which one's clink clink?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, clink clink! I said it.
Yep.
Clink, clink. Hey.
I ran to grab mugs just specifically for the clink clink.
Oh goodness, yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Farewell.